Right, welcome back, everyone. I hope you're all sufficiently caffeinated. We now have a panel discussion, so I'd like to welcome to the stage our eminent speakers. So please take a pew, and I will join you shortly. We have Dr. Victoria Haran-Galiba, who is head of technical sales at D-Wave. We have Lee Fulmer, Chairman of the Reporting and Data Standards Transformation Board at the Bank of England. We have Tina Idnani, Principal Engineer at Investec. We have, joining us on Zoom, I hope, Mohammed, brilliant, there we go, Al-Sayari, who is the Head of Quantum Computing at Saudi Aramco. We have Dr. Steve Flinter, who is VP of AI and Machine Learning and Head of Emerging Technology at MasterCard. And in a change to our previous program, we have Rajiv Krishna Kumar, who is a quantum scientist at Quantum Basel. Please welcome our speakers. I might just stay over here, because otherwise it's going to be that problem where I can only see one of you, and the rest of you are kind of, Anyway, the topic of this panel is, and I thought it was really good, nicely set up for us by the speaker earlier from BA. You may be wondering about whether to take the plunge, and when do you decide whether to take the plunge? And so what we have here is some companies at various stages in their quantum journeys and at different places in the value chain, the ecosystem, if you like. And obviously 4 of them are actually companies, and 2 of them are sort of ecosystem players. So what I'd like to do to start off with is I'd like to very quickly hear from each of our panelists about where you are in your quantum journey. Are you evaluating, are you experimenting, and basically how did you choose to be where you are today? So why don't we start with Steve Flinter? Why don't we start with you? Go ahead, please.
Sure, yeah. So firstly, very nice to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. MasterCard has been in the quantum computing area for probably about 3 years now. Initially, we joined a consortium with IBM and a number of universities and startup companies to start to build our own activity in that space. A couple of years ago, we then started to work with D-Wave, and we're working with some other partners that we haven't announced. So we've kind of followed a number of different tracks, exploring both the gate-based model of quantum computing as well as the quantum annealing model. And kind of where we are in our journey is a little bit, to again use the pun that you used earlier, a little bit of a superposition of all of those states. In some of the applications we're looking at, we're on a clear and defined path to commercialization. We're looking at things like scalability. We're looking at things like integration into production systems, so we can see a genuine route to commercial deployment. In other of the applications, we're still very much in the research phase, trying to understand things like quantum machine learning, which is a little bit out there, trying to understand how that will fit into our ecosystem. So I think, in all, as we kind of evolve through this, we're going to remain in all of the stages at the same time. As we kind of commercialize some technology, we'll look to bring in other new ideas to feed the pipeline of innovation and research.
Okay, so you kind of you've mapped things out, and you think you have a clear idea of where you'll be able to deploy first. Just very quickly, what is the point where you're sort of furthest down the track to actually deployment? What's the particular application?
The application that we're looking at is one related to loyalty and rewards, where we're looking to see how we can optimize loyalty programs for cardholders, for banking customers. So figuring out what is the right reward or offer to give to a customer at the right time. That turns out to be characterized as a combinatorial optimization problem, which we think is a good fit for quantum technology.
Right.
So that's the one that we're furthest down the road in, and then we have a number of other applications a little bit earlier in the pipeline.
Great. Okay, thank you. Tina Idnani, I'd like to come with you now. Staying in financial services, how far down the track? Where are you? Where is Investec?
I would say we are quite early in the journey. So we started last year, and we are in the experimentation phase with quantum, trying to navigate the landscape and identifying potential use cases where quantum can be applied. And we are also leveraging our strategic partnership with Microsoft to experiment with quantum using Azure Quantum. And that allows us access to different quantum hardware providers. So this is where we are in the journey. And the reason why we took a plunge into quantum is because the rate at which technology is currently progressing is accelerating exponentially. So we realized that we have to kind of make a strategy around these game-changing technologies, quantum being one of them. And that would be really instrumental in helping us achieve our robust growth agenda. So our board and senior executives, they met, and they thought about their strategy around these game-changing technologies. And one reason why quantum stood out is because of the prospects and because of the capability it has to disrupt and transform the way various industries work, including finance. And so the thinking for us has been to start early and to start growing our understanding on quantum and see if it can help us with our financial use cases and give us a competitive edge.
Okay,
so that's the reason we took a plunge.
That sounds great. So it sounds like you're at a bit more of an exploratory stage. Just on those other emerging technologies and game-changing technologies, how many are them? 15? 3? Presumably AI is one of the others. So, I mean, so how unusual is it that you're doing this for quantum?
I think we are now starting to invest in these game-changing technologies, and we are starting to form our strategies. So for now, there are not many. I would say we have, like you said, AI, generative AI. We have cryptocurrency. And then we are definitely looking into quantum, like I said.
Right.
But we want to start getting a competitive edge ahead in these game-changing technologies and see how they can help us stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, metaverse not on the list. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, now we're going to switch from financial services briefly, and we're going to come to Mohammed Al-Sayari of Saudi Aramco. You know, an oil company having a head of quantum computing. Is he still there? Have we lost him? Oh no, but these are questions from the audience. Anyway, I hope he's still there. Yes, he's up here on this screen. So, over to you. Where are you in your quantum journey?
Yes, hi Tom. Thanks for hosting me. I'm very pleased to join this interesting session, and hopefully next time I'll be physically there. So regarding the quantum journey, in fact, it has been like 2.5 years right now since we started the journey. We've completed like the evaluation of the technology, identification of the potential areas, and also we built like strong partnership with leading quantum companies like IBM, Quantinuum, Pascal, to excel our journey with. Currently, similar to others, and in some areas we are in the proof of value or proof of concept stage. In other areas, we are still experimenting. And our objective really is to adopt the technology and get the critical use cases that would benefit the company and give us the competitive edge. And therefore, you would find like sustainability, green energy, carbon emission, renewables are our like key objectives, similar to other like oil and gas companies. And we are experimenting the quantum technologies in areas like chemistry simulation, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and also optimization, because we believe at this stage optimization is important. Another important point is we understand the threat of the quantum is imposing on data security. Therefore, the quantum cryptography is an important area that we currently preparing for, and we are planning to adopt the NIST recommendation to have a quantum safe algorithm, in addition to other cryptography solutions and like the quantum random generator and quantum key distribution.
Okay, thank you very much. I understand that oil and gas is one of the biggest users of high-performance computing, but I wondered, does that apply to Saudi Aramco? Because your oil is kind of easier to find than, you know, some of this sub-salt stuff, and you know, some of the more difficult fields that other oil and gas companies have to negotiate with. So, are you big users of high-performance computing already?
Correct. Yes, we have one of the largest HPC that worldwide, and yes, we do use it, and I think not especially in oil and gas, nothing is easy to explore or to extract, but we do have the latest technologies. That's why I think we made our life easy on that regard, and we hope quantum would help us also to complement, not to replace the HPC, but complement that one and provide us with the advantage.
Okay, and if you had to choose one area where you think it's most likely you might use this first, where would you say that was?
In fact, currently, like maybe cybersecurity right now, because we like you understand the importance of safeguarding your network, and we have maybe we have a big team in security. That's why right now we succeeded in having proof of concepts and building some solutions. Using the quantum cryptography, so that area. But of course, when it comes to upstream operation, or then we talk about it. The chemistry simulation is a very important area. Like we hope to get sustainable, like for example, plastics or new catalysts that would help us further.
Okay.
And in fact, the quantum is very huge potential that we go like from upstream to downstream to get the best of it.
Okay, lots of applications, obviously, because it's a lot of logistics involved as well. Lee Fulmer, if I could come to you next. Tell us a bit about your role at the Bank of England and tell us and your history with quantum and where you are.
Of course. So I think from a Bank of England point of view, I'm the independent chair of the board. So it's important to say I don't work for the Bank of England. My job is to provide governance and oversight. And I think within the context of that, there is a watching brief on all emerging technologies, how they could impact the economy as well as be used by the regulators. Professionally, I was at UBS Investment Bank until just a couple of months ago, and before that JP Morgan, and before that IBM. So I actually have been playing with quantum for nearly 15 years now. So I really feel like the old person on the panel, both metaphorically and literally. I guess the most recent thing was I ran the innovation labs as well as being chief data officer at UBS before I left. And we did an experiment with GCHQ and several other industry partners about 3.5 years ago, where we tried to look at business use cases for quantum. So from a financial point of view, we ran Monte Carlo simulations against market data, we ran volatility curves, and what we were trying to do was see, could we use the technology to get an exponential benefit back out, right? Something that would give us a competitive advantage, because in investment banking, you live or die by microseconds, right? So I think the end result of all of that effort was that we found we weren't getting a substantive uplift. We just weren't, right? So we were getting the same kind of outcomes in similar sorts of time frames. I even went so far at one point to experiment with trying to do sentiment analysis and taking a look at Twitter feeds when Trump was in power and how that was affecting markets and commodities, and seeing if we could predict literally in microseconds a correlation to volatility. And we weren't able to get anything substantially uplift over what our existing algos were able to do. I think the takeaway from that exercise was very much that most of our business processes in finance are linear, right? That's the way we look at problems. And actually, as human beings, we are binary, right? We are not wired to be able to think about two states at the same time. If you postulate that question in your own mind, you go down one path, and then you go down the other path. So you're still doing it linearly. I think until we get to a phase to where we have true business problems that could be bifurcated in real time, we're not going to be able to ask the right questions.
Okay, well that sounds, now one way of reading this is that you've been playing with this possibly for as long as anyone in this room, maybe longer, and yet you're still kind of at the watching brief stage. Is that a bit of an indictment of this technology, that actually it's got no commercial value? What do you think?
Well, at the risk of being potentially lynched after I step off this stage, yes. Right? So if we look at how quantum computing started to evolve out of the 90s, alongside blockchain, alongside VR, we have the same sorts of challenges with those. They are technical solutions to a business problem that doesn't exist.
Blockchain's a bit later than that, isn't it? I mean, it's
97.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Satoshi is a later example of a blockchain.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. But I hadn't realized that blockchain had such deep roots. Okay, fair enough. Well, that's fighting talk, I think. So best to come to Victoria Galiba about this. What do you think? It's got no value. No, seriously. How are your customers approaching this? How do they decide when to jump in? How do you kind of get them closer to the edge of the swimming pool and encourage them to come on in and try the water? What's your take on this?
Yeah, so we at D-Wave, we really support customers wherever they are in their journey. So if they want to just kind of explore use cases and see what the potential is, what the possibilities are, we're happy to meet with them, talk with them about that. And then we also meet with customers all the way at the other end of the spectrum, where they're really like, we want to get production use cases, we want to see business value, and we have several examples of customers doing that today. They're running applications in their everyday business. So for example, Pattison Food Groups in Canada is using our quantum annealing and hybrid solvers to schedule delivery drivers to deliver groceries to people's homes. And this is a large scale problem that used to take them 80 hours or something, right? And now they're able to do it so quickly, they can run it very efficiently, they can make adjustments real time when they need to. So there's really, there's a whole spectrum. So we're really here to help however we can to push people towards that production end, because we do really believe that with our technology and our solvers, there is real value today that can be seen.
Okay, and where are you seeing, can you generalize about the industries or the applications where you're seeing the most actual people actually deploying, or at least getting close to deployment?
Sure. I mean, D-Wave specifically, we really are good at optimization problems. So those can be found in any industry. Probably, the easiest wins that we're seeing are in like logistics and manufacturing. We're working with a lot of like financial customers, like Steve at MasterCard. We work closely with him. There are really applications everywhere for optimization problems. And so, I could give you use cases all across all of these industries. But I definitely think right now, the biggest ones that we're seeing, logistics, manufacturing, finance, are probably the top ones.
Okay, and just to be clear on your business model, if a company wants to try your technology, they don't have to buy hardware from you. Is there a cloud-based approach? You can buy capacity. Is that how it works?
Yeah, yep. So most people access through the cloud. You can sign up for free. You can try it out for free without purchasing anything. And then, you can purchase more access. We have professional services. We kind of have the full stack to help whatever you want to do, whatever your goals are. That's what we're here for.
Okay, great. Rajiv Krishnakumar, coming to you finally. Firstly, Quantum Basel. I was asking you this earlier, but I think other people may also struggle with what kind of organization is it? It's sort of a business park, it's sort of a consultancy. What does it do?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, we kind of fall under this ecosystem bucket. So Quantum Basel, we're fairly new on our journey, but things are moving fast. And essentially, it's the idea that, we've heard it since Jack this morning, all the way down, that we need collaboration, and especially we need to talk between people that want to apply quantum computing and the people that provide the technology. So we are providing that ecosystem, and in a little bit on the nose for being a Swiss company, but we're technology neutral. So we will work with many different people. We already have partnerships with D-Wave, with IBM. This is our quantum technology stack, and we're expanding that. We have partnerships with NVIDIA for the AI side. And then on the more startup side, we're working with Plug and Play and the Cambridge Innovation Center so that we have a stream of startups coming in. And our idea is to really understand the client's problems and connect them to the appropriate technologies if possible. And then also try and understand how we can also provide assistance. It can be anything from a hands-off approach, if that's what the client is interested in terms of connecting people, or it can be more like walking through the connection and even working on proof of concepts and the education aspect as well.
So when companies come to you, have they basically already decided that they think quantum might be relevant, and are they asking your advice whether they should take the plunge, or have they kind of already decided that this is something they're going to do?
Yes, in the sense that this, as Victoria mentioned, there's a broad scope of what people are looking for. And so really, there are some examples. For example, Vinci Energy, we are working on a project with them, and they are much more at an advanced stage, and it's in collaboration with D-Wave, actually, to solve one of their pain points. And so that's been really interesting, and that's one example. But another one is just companies talking to us and asking us, hey, look, what is even quantum, and can it be useful for us? So
okay, so really it's people at lots of different stages. And just go on.
So can I just ask a question? Because you made the point that you do this consultancy and you look for the appropriate solution. Have you ever had a client come to you and said you shouldn't use quantum?
Not that we shouldn't use quantum, but that they can ask the question, should we? And the answer could be no, not for you.
No, so
but that's what I'm asking,
okay,
right?
Yeah, so you will sometimes say.
Absolutely. So I think, just to piggyback on that point, it is important to kind of understand your own use case before coming. And the answer could be, if you're trying to multiply numbers, don't use a quantum computer. We have everything we need. So definitely, I think, and again, sort of to emphasize the neutrality of things, we work with quantum and classical providers as well.
Okay.
So we think that's very important.
Okay, and just a similar question to the one I asked Victoria, which is, are you seeing any particular industries or applications where you think this has got the most near-term application?
And my answer will be actually similar to that of Victoria's. We have, with Vinci Energy, we have this project. We have logistics companies coming to us and asking questions because, again, it's an optimization problem, which we feel that quantum technologies have the potential to really help. But really, we're starting to see manufacturing companies, finance companies, and even, being in Basel, the pharma companies are working with us. But I think what's really interesting is even within the industries, it's to understand the particular use cases. And so there could be some use cases, like optimization problems. If we find similar problems across industries, we could work across there too. And there may be some problems in certain industries where quantum may not be the answer.
Okay, cool. Now, we have some questions from the audience. I'd like to pull one out. It's from an anonymous questioner, but it's how do you identify a use case? And I think, actually, Steve, you might be a good person to ask here, because it sounds as though you've looked at lots of things, and you've chosen one as a kind of good test bed. So how did you come to that decision?
Yeah, it is a challenging area, because one of the things you need to do, I think, even before you get to use cases, is to start with education. For the owners of the businesses or the folks who will have those problems, how do you educate them as to what quantum is and can do versus what it isn't and can't do? And that kind of acts as the first filter. So one of the challenges, I think, in this area is people think that quantum is kind of magical pixie dust. You can just sprinkle on a problem and suddenly it solves it. So a big part of it is trying to kind of work with the folks who have the systems or the problems that you're interested in to filter out which ones are a good fit and which exist in that kind of Goldilocks zone between being hard enough that they're really challenging versus being so difficult that even current technology on the quantum side can't address. And there is a sort of a Goldilocks zone that you're looking for use cases in there. But I would say start with education and then drill into each individual use case and see how does it fit with the technologies that are available.
Thank you. There's another question here that I think might be best directed to Victoria. What's the industry doing to build capacity, skills, and so on? Because obviously you're not going to, and it sort of follows on from this education point. What's the role of companies like yours in educating people about the potential and the capabilities?
Well, I mean, we do a lot of events like this to speak about what quantum can do and where are the good use cases. Like we said, it's not for everything. We do also partner with a fair number of universities. I think I go and teach courses, I give seminars, we have training courses. We try to do a lot of community outreach, webinars, that sort of stuff to try and educate. But I do definitely think there is a need to kind of grow that younger workforce, starting with universities and everything, to build the workforce, because I think that's one thing that we're hearing a lot is that there's a lack of people with the right skills.
Great. And Rajiv, presumably you're doing similar things. Have you got links with universities and so forth?
Yes, that's right. So we are partnered with universities, including University of Basel. And I would say in terms of working with companies, the interesting thing is to understand not just us going and educating companies in a one-sided way, but to have this conversation and to say, okay, you can educate us a little bit about your use cases so that we can really understand what it is you need to know and get to see how quantum can be useful for you.
Great. Now, we don't have very long, but it was great to get some questions from the audience in there. So thank you very much for sending them in, and please keep sending them in other sessions. The thing is, we've got 6 panelists and only half an hour, so I have very little time for each panelist. So what I'd like to finally do is ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Tina, because I think you said you started this a year ago, right? So people who are in the audience now who haven't done anything could be in your position in a year's time. So I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to ask all of you this: what has most surprised you? And what do you wish you'd known when you started down this path? What would be your advice to your past self, and indeed to people in the audience who may be where you were in the past?
Well, I would say we are still too early in this journey to reflect.
Right.
So I'm going to tweak your question a little bit. So for us, it's not about what we wish we had known when we started the journey, but it's more about what we wish we should be doing more of now.
Right.
What is it that we can do now? And one thing that comes to my mind when I think about this is networking. And by networking, I mean participating in industry consortia focusing on quantum computing, participating in conferences like the one we are here today, participating in discussions with industry experts to know the different opinions and to understand the industry trends, and then looking for prospects of partnering with different universities and research institutions to see how we can best collaborate and work collectively towards it rather than just marching forward alone.
Right, okay, that's really interesting. So you've realized as a result of what you've looked at so far, it's almost as if we put you up to this, say that, that's why we have this conference. But I mean, we just keep coming back to this, that the users have to talk to the developers and everyone has to talk to everyone. I'd like to ask everyone that question though. Mohammed, what do you wish you'd known, or what advice would you give your past self?
Yeah, in fact, for any company that would like to start this journey, I would say first, you have to identify what's the objectives of adopting the quantum. Very important to build your quantum team. Very important to develop your people, and do not invest heavily on the system when you start. Start gradually through cloud access or simulators, quantum simulators, and very important really to partner with some consulting company or quantum company to expedite your journey.
Great, thank you very much. That's very clear advice there. Steve, I'm going to come to you next. What advice would you give people just starting now?
Yeah, I think I would agree with a lot of what was said. I think building up internal expertise around the technology, I think, is super important, because that will give you a kind of a grounding in what is and is not practical and realistic. The technologies are available. They're easily accessible through cloud providers, through simulators, software SDKs, etc. So the barrier to entry is gotten lower and lower over time. So it is actually relatively easy to get started in that area, even from a standing start. And then, as we talked about in our last question, start to find one or two use cases where you think are relevant for your business and are a good fit for what the technology can do. And that's the kind of the route to success, I think.
Great, thank you. Lee, I think you've been the most skeptical voice here. What advice would you give people in the room?
Well, I think I'd like to qualify my skepticism by saying I'm a closet nerd. So I love playing with technology, but at the end of the day, I'm a business executive, so I have to make sure that what I use is appropriate to get the return on value. What I would say to everybody is educate yourself. I mean, it literally is that basic. You should have at least one person in your organization who is going to these conferences, who is experimenting.
Well, everyone here has at least one person, don't they? So.
Well, hopefully it's the people in this room. But I think I get personally value out of this. Steve and I wound up talking about something just before we came up on stage that we're now going to go work on.
God, it sounds like I've put you up to this as well, but this is why we do it, folks, so that's great. Okay, brilliant. That's very helpful indeed. Educate yourself, that's the starting point. Victoria, what advice do you give to people?
Sure, yeah. So I think I started my quantum journey almost as far back, 10 years ago, pretty much. So I think what I would advise is focus less on like the quantum physics and the hardware and more on what it can do and how you do that. So, my background is math and computer science. I have very little physics background, but what I do focus on is the programming and the formulation and what are the good fit problems and what is the return to your business. And I think that sometimes we get distracted by the different hardware models and how they're built and the quantum mechanics taking place, and really focus on like the business and commercial value that you can get out of these different platforms.
Great, thank you. Yes, funnily enough, I think one of the noticeable changes of the agenda this year versus last year is we had a lot more physics last year. And I'm a massive nerd as well, and I find that very interesting. But I think from the point of view of a lot of the attendees, actually it's how you apply this stuff and sort of what the implications are. And the next session deals with that directly. But before we get to that, the final word is going to go to Rajiv. So what advice would you give to people about starting on this journey?
Well, despite being a physicist, I unfortunately do have to agree. I think it's nice to focus on the applications. I think, yeah, know your use cases. And as actually Alberto mentioned earlier this morning, you don't have to start by investing a ton of money. Work with partners who have an idea and work together to see where it can help you in particular. We think that, we're hopeful that quantum technologies will really help with a broad host of problems. But if we want to make it practical today, we really have to address things on a use case by use case basis.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for your advice and sharing your experience with us. Please give a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you.